Let's call this meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to thank everybody who came here in person tonight, for those who are tuning in remotely. At this time, we will begin our 2025-2026 school budget presentation.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening for our public presentation. Our last board meeting, we had our board presentation where they voted on the budget. Since then, we've had the opportunity to present the budget to our staff, our students, our community, our staff advisory, our leadership cabinet, and our board. We're going to be working our way through the rosaries as we move forward towards the 20th. This evening, there is going to be me speaking. We will be speaking as our Assistant Superintendent for Operations and Finance. We'll also have Matt Burdick speaking on behalf of Special Education. Flexible. Okay, so this our Board of Education seats that are up for this year. We have Cully's 3-year term and Millie's. Okay, our strategic plan should be the backbone of our budget, and that's what it is. And so this strategic plan was put in over the last 2 school years now, and the first goal we have is improving our graduation rate. It's actually on the wall behind these folks up here. I think I overclicked. Yeah, I go back. Going the wrong way. So our first goal is to increase the graduation rate within the Watertown City School District. The second thing is increasing meaningful student engagement. It's hard to graduate students if you don't have them here and they're not engaged. Improving overall student attendance. Obviously, it's hard to engage kids that aren't in seats and they're not learning. And then our behavioral supports for students. And that's looking at our students that are struggling, that we want to make sure that behavioral supports and systems are in place. There's been a lot over the last couple of years that we've put in place to address our students that were struggling. The last one is enhancing our infrastructure, which is evident in our $110 million capital project. The one thing that I'm most proud of going through the strategic plan within the Watertown City School District is that it is a living, breathing document. Too often times you put plans together, they look nice, they get put on a shelf and they're not looked at again. Our strategic plan was put in with a diverse group of stakeholder groups. Each year we have a mid-year review where we look at our strategic plan and where we were with the goals that we set for that year. And then after the mid-year review at the end of the year, we have a subcommittee of folks across all demographics in our district that serve on that committee. And we look at reviewing the goals and whether or not we accomplish them. If we did not accomplish them, we move them over to the upcoming school year. Those that we have, we move beyond those into the next step. And Bree's going to discuss balancing the budget.
When we're building the district's budget, there's 4 ways in order to balance the budget. And the first way is by increasing revenue. This is one of the most difficult things to do because revenue is finite. It's not going to be there forever. Like interest rates, for example, interest rates are at an all-time high, and we're taking advantage of that while we can. But in the next 2-3 years, those interest rates will not be as high, so we won't be able to rely on those as much. State aid, we had some very nice jumps in the last couple of years, but as the fiscal cliff that they keep talking about year after year comes closer, the amount of that increase will start to diminish. The second option is using reserves and fund balance. This is essentially using up your savings account to pay your mortgage. If you keep using those funds to help balance the budget, eventually those monies are gone and some very difficult decisions will need to be made at that point. The third option is the tax levy. The school districts are tied to a tax cap calculation set by New York State. Our tax cap calculation this year is 2.44%, which equates to just shy of $427,000. I believe the next slide does show that calculation briefly, I believe. And then finally, this is how the school districts balance their budget is by reducing expenditures. most districts are laying off staff, cutting programs just to make ends meet to balance their budget. We are very fortunate here at Watertown that we are not having to do that this year. We are in fact growing, as you will see later on in the presentation. Yeah, this is our tax cap calculation. It's a very convoluted formula, taking into effect how the tax-based growth factor of the district, which is 0.6%. And then, of course, the inflation rate, which is actually 2.95% when the tax cap came out. It has lowered a little bit, but we can't go more than 2. When you take into account any change of pilots and capital levies, that allows us to increase by $426,583. Again, that's a 2.44% increase. This slide shows what our fund balance was as of June 30th of 2024, which was the end of the last fiscal year. Our restricted fund balance was about $18.9 million. Restricted fund balance represents the reserves that the district holds, such as unemployment, retirement contributions, and the capital reserve. There are some other ones that we are looking at for the next fiscal year. The district currently doesn't have a workers' compensation reserve. We are looking at possibly increasing the amount of contributions to our insurance reserve. And also on the budget, there are a couple of propositions for a new capital reserve and a furniture reserve.
How do you go back?
Thank you. The second one is assigned. This is the funds that are used to balance the budget. And for the 24-25 year, it was $8.9 million. Encumbrances are outstanding purchase orders that had not been completed by the end of the year. So those carry over until they are closed out. And that was just shy of $219,000. And then finally is our unassigned. And this is where a lot of concern comes in. We do have an unassigned fund balance at the end of last fiscal year of just shy of $24 million, which did equate to about 25% of the budget. There's a lot of talk about what should that actually look like. Right now, the state says 4% of your fund balance is sufficient. However, fiscal advisors recommends between 10 and 15%. The healthier your fund balance is, the easier it is to borrow money to work on our capital projects, because we will need to borrow some money through bands and bonds. The Rockefeller report, which was done earlier this year, also recommended a minimum of 10% for districts that are not held harmless, which is what Watertown City School District is in. We are looking at some different ways to spend down that fund balance. There are some temporary grants that are now done, such as the ARPA grant. There's a few $1 million of salaries that are going to be offset in the general fund by that. Also, some big one-time projects, such as the marching band. We're looking to bring that back. Very excited. So district vehicles, we're looking at 4 vans to transport students. One thing to understand about these vans, because it is to transport students, we will receive 90% of that back in transportation aid for next year.
Similar to our capital project where 93 cents on the dollar is reimbursed on these.
Looking at a maintenance truck, when I came on board, one of the things that we looked at was the year of our maintenance vehicles. And we're discovering that our average maintenance vehicle is about 14 years old. You're putting in $7,000 of work into a truck that's not worth anything. So we're looking to replace that fleet over the next 4 or 5 years. We're working on the high school stage to refinish the stage. The Wiley stairway is being repaired. And also we're looking at doing an outdoor learning space over at North Elementary, renovating those old tennis courts into they have some really great ideas. I can't even begin to tell you what they're going to look like, but they have some great things. I can't wait to see the outcome of that. This slide represents the revenue comparisons for the current year budget compared to next year. We're looking at an increase of $7 million from $96 million to $103 million budget. We're going to start with state aid. There's an increase of $2.7 million, and that represents foundation aid and BOCES aid. This will be a highlight on the next screen, but foundation aid is still unknown at this point. Even though the state claims they have come up with a budget agreement, we still do not have our state aid runs. And when those runs came out in January, Watertown City School District was promised 3.18%. Well, the discussion has been, since inflation has decreased since then, that we might not even get 3.18 at this point in time. It could decrease. which means that to offset that revenue would have to come out of fund balance. Other revenues, these are pilots and interest earnings. That's increasing from 2 million to 3 million. We are very fortunate to take advantage of interest rates right now. They are in 3 different financial institutions: Watertown Savings Bank, Community Bank, and NYCLAS. And at the end of this fiscal year, we're estimating about $2 million in interest revenue, where it was originally budgeted at 15,000. So we have decided to add $1 million to that budget for next year to help us offset the expenses. Tax levy, you can see that's the impact of the 2.44% increase from 17.5 to 17.9 million. And finally, the fund balance, we're using up an additional $3 million to help bring that fund balance down from 8 million to $11.7 million. And the quick revenue highlights, as I just discussed, was the 3 institutions with our interest earnings and the discussion of foundation aid. Another thing to know about the foundation aid, when Kathy Hochul came into office, she made a promise to fully fund foundation aid. That was done over a 2-year period. This current year, the 24-25 year, is the last year to fully fund foundation aid. So the district received about 8.77% increase in that. For the 25-26, we're initially promised 3.18. And if you look at the difference between what we got for this year compared to what we're looking at for next year, is a difference of 5.59%, about $3 million. And on the expense side, Dr. Spiegel, if you can go to the next slide, I just want to highlight just 3 of those specific expenses. Salaries, benefits, and BOCES are the highlights of the increase in the $7 million. And we'll go to the next one. Was the budgetary highlights for expenses. Utilities have increased 10%. I'm sure everybody has seen their electric bills this year, and I know National Grid's talked about going up another 20% over the next 3. Health insurance premiums are seeing a 6% increase. Our employees retirement system, this is the contribution the district pays towards non-instructional employees. A tier 4 is at 19.6%. Our liability insurance, which is with Taylor Fire and Coon, Utica National, it's pretty much like your State Farm, your house insurance. The district is looking at a 40% premium increase due to the damage from the flood. Excuse me, and of course the damage to North Elementary from the windstorm last year. And then finally, we have a new transportation contract. The previous transportation contract was a 5-year contract with 2 1-year extensions. And so there was a dramatic increase, as you would expect, with the new contract. And then, of course, we do still have 2 contracts that are in negotiations.
One thing to just add to what Marie said with the liability insurance, what we tried to do is shop around to see if we could get a lower rate, just like your home insurance or homeowners insurance. Because of our claims ratio, back last year, when you look at the damage that happened in Case, although it was minimal, it was still a claim. If you look at the millions of dollars worth of damage at the high school and then at North Elementary School with the flooding and with the wind, our claims ratio was over 170%. And so we are struggling to find another insurance carrier. There are limited insurance carriers anyways that are willing to carry a school district insurance. But we just got notification today of another one that is not willing to accept such a high ratio. So that'll take us a period of time to try to buy down. Yeah, so I'm just gonna touch base here. These are some additional increases for this upcoming school year. And so we're looking at what we need to do as a district. So again, tied to our strategic plan to increase the overall graduation rate. When you look at the first one, you may say, why are we adding girls flag football? Girls flag football, just like adding bowling this year, and we had the privilege, the board was presented with them a few board meetings ago. Anything we can do to try to get all of our students to feel that sense of belonging is critically important. And so by adding girls flag football, I believe the survey went out and I think they have just shy of 40 girls that are interested already. So we're excited about that. Indoor track was something that the board committed to almost 2 years ago, Tina. Almost 2 years ago, the board committed to that financially. And so the numbers are such numbers that we need an assistant coach to support that. A hall monitor at Case. What we're looking at is trying to follow suit with very similar to what we have at the high school, where 1 hall monitor is assigned to each floor. We're looking to do the same thing at Case Middle School. What you may or may not know is that our schools now have the Raptor system where students check in at the front of the school through that secure vestibule. The hall monitors at Case are tied up to do that. And so we want to be able to free them up so they're able to engage and move around the building and make sure that we monitor the safety and security of our students and staff. The next thing is critically important. We're looking at driving instruction. 4 additional TAs, teaching assistants, for Knickerbocker, Ohio, Sherman, and Starbuck. We went throughout this budget cycle and listened to every single director and principal about what their hopes and dreams were for their building. And they did it in almost like a dissertation defense because they had to defend their asks against our strategic plan. And so you don't see all of them on here because we couldn't say yes to everything or we'd have a $20 million increase. But these TAs are going to allow the flexibilities in our buildings for our principals to say there's a teacher that would benefit from visiting a novice classroom. That the principal will allow that TA to sub in that classroom to take that in a coaching cycle, that individual to see that novice classroom. It could be that individual is freed up to sub if there's a situation where there's a sub shortage for the day, that person can sub. This has already been incorporated as far as conversation in the planning phase. What we want to recognize is that every school in our district, albeit the same, we're all cyclones, every school is uniquely different. And we just want to make sure through Lynn's support, as far as the principals are concerned, that they have the support they need to utilize these positions to best want to increase our student achievement. The next thing is Sherman Elementary School. We need to increase a first grade teacher at Sherman. When you look at the enrollment projections at Sherman, that was a first grade need there. Summer school, we've currently operated with 1 TA during summer school. That's a lot of students in a summer school setting at the secondary level. And so we're going to be adding an additional TA to support. Some of these are stipend positions and some of them are full-time positions. So obviously that's a stipend position. Language arts teachers. We are trying to make sure as a district that we're meeting every kid. I think 2 years ago, we had the opportunity to listen to some former high school students, I believe now, that were in our French program. And unfortunately, due to retirements, we were struggling to fill a class. Tina did a great job in her department to fill that. But our goal is that irregardless of which student attends the Watertown City School District, that they're given opportunities. Those students that want to excel in language and the arts and sciences, that we can increase our course offerings and allow our kids to really compete, because the goal is when they leave here in 12th grade, we want to make sure that they're competitive as they apply for college, the military, wherever they choose to go beyond our K-12 program. The next thing is Cyclone Academy Junior and Cyclone Academy Middle. We added that to our district this year. The amount of positive feedback from our community in offering this, really the current program is high school level, and Leslie, as the principal, is here tonight. It's been extremely positive. What we are trying to portray in the Watertown City School District is that every kid should have the opportunity to excel. And every kid may need something else to be able to excel. And so for our kids that maybe were formerly homeschooled, or maybe they suffered with school anxiety or depression and those kind of things, we ramped up the enrollment to 77 students in our Cyclone Academy. We have many districts around the region, because we are the only one that offer this, that are looking at that. This Cyclone Academy Junior allows us to add to that. So in addition to having it at the high school level, where we have high school students that are benefiting it in the 9th through 12th grade, this will be open to 8th graders. So the idea here, when we went through the planning process, and Matt, thank you for leading these discussions along with Kate Cook and her team at CASE. The team really wanted something similar but different. And in education, we use the term blended model. So this is a blended model. And so Cyclone Academy Junior are going to be for our students that are in middle school that want to take the middle school 8th grade curriculum, but they want an acceleration. They want to take a high school credit. And so what we want to do is be able to offer them to take high school credits. And so they'll attend their regular day. And then in the evening from 2:30 to 3:30, they'll be able to take a high school credit to add to their high school transcript. On the flip side, so those are your kids that want to accelerate. On the Cyclone Academy Middle, those are going to be kids that maybe are homeschool. You know, we have over 220 something students that are in our homeschool program. We want to try to pull some of those 8th graders back into our public school system. And so these kids are going to have the opportunity to come to school at 11:30. They'll get their lunch. They'll go to physical education, some of those state required courses, and then they'll have the option to stay till 5:30. So it'll be a blended model. Will come in half day. They'll stay into the evening. Same level of supports, ELL supports, special education services, and so forth. And we're utilizing our current staffing that is paid. So this is more of like an hourly stipend, if you will. It's $38.10 an hour that our teachers are paid. Although we've been working with the teachers union under Tina's leadership with the hours, and we're looking at some of the new hires that we're hiring as a district. We have some courses that could be taught at 10 o'clock in the morning until 5:30. That would allow us to use our existing staff, but shifting their hours. And so we're looking at some of those new hires to be 10 to 5:30 teachers to staff the Cyclone Academy, junior and the high school. The next thing is the Assistant Director of Facilities. You may know that this year we lost our Director of Facilities. The Assistant Director of Facilities allows us a succession plan. Right now, we currently have a Director of Food Service and Assistant Director of Food Service, but we don't for our Facilities Department. We currently now, those of you that have been following our board meetings for this entire school year since August, know that we have been meeting bi-weekly, Bree and I, with FEMA and Department of Homeland Security. The amount of work that we're undertaking because of those storm damage things, the emergency things that are happening, the one-time projects, in addition to that, the $110 million project, we could use that additional support. And our hope is that this person would be that successor to the director if he or she decides to leave or retire. The next thing, and we also, just to put that out there, is we're hoping that that position works evenings. And so right now, our Director of Facilities works days, but there are instances when things come up, like they did over the weekend, that things come up and he or she is called on the spot along with myself and sometimes Bree or Tina, and we respond to those accordingly. But that gives us that flexibility for night supervision to make sure that we're really looking at our services. What I envision with this position is creating checklists of what does it look like to clean a classroom, office space, a nursing space, and so forth, a library. We want more structures and systems in place to help assist that, and we believe that that is important to get there. The next thing is the elementary SSO. SSO stands for School Safety Officer. As you know, we piloted School Safety Officer at Wiley, and it went extremely well. This year, we added that position to both Case Middle School and another one to Watertown High School. So we currently have 3 SSOs and 1 SRO. It is important to mention, and I don't have it on the slide here, but I will let you know, we are not looking to replace our current SRO to replace it with an SSO. What I will say though, we're nearing just about 100,000 per the SRO. We can hire 2 for the price of 1. So they're about 50 to 55,000 salary wise, and they do not cost the district or the taxpayers salary benefits. These people are mostly retired law enforcement officers. And then Matt Burdick is going to talk about the next upcoming slides.
Yes, so in terms of special education, we are looking at adding an additional occupational therapist district-wide next year. We currently have 3 occupational therapists within the district, and their caseload sizes are at or above 70 students. And the state guidance is that they should be around 50 students. So by adding an additional occupational therapist, we'll be able to support the needs of the students better and make sure that we're staying up on evaluations and services that need to be provided. At the high school, we are looking at adding an additional 12-1-1 classroom. We currently have 1 that's there. We have students within that classroom. There's a 3-year age span, and we are at capacity in that classroom. We have students with the FAPE 22 guidance from New York State that would like to stay beyond completing high school. They can come back as a postgraduate. So adding an additional 12-1-1 classroom will allow us to meet the 3-year age span that's required for those classrooms.
Matt, just to interject there. So what he's saying is, so now with the new law with FAPE 22, kids have the right with an IEP to stay in school until their 22nd birthday. And I believe at the high school, we have 6 families that have opted to do that, which says a lot about our staff in those classrooms, that their parents feel safe with them staying that additional year as opposed to other outside partnerships.
Also at the high school, we're looking at adding an additional consultant teacher. We have had an influx of students over the last several years that have come in with additional services on their IEP. For example, consultant teacher, resource room, academic support, and we've been only able to allow resource room support with limited consultant teacher services. By adding another consultant teacher to the high school, we will be able to expand upon meeting the needs of our students that come in with additional supports in the general education classrooms. At North Elementary, we're looking at adding 2 additional 15-to-1 teaching assistants. We currently have 1 over at North. We have a number of students that are in those classrooms. Just so you know, those classrooms are students that have some cognitive delays, difficulties. By adding additional TAs at North, we will be able to allow those students to go into general education classrooms, mainstream with support that they need to be successful out in mainstream classes. At Sherman Elementary, we're looking at adding a cluster aide. We currently have 1 over at Sherman. With the way our schedule is structured, adding additional cluster aides will be able to meet the needs of the minutes on student IEPs. Right now, it's very constrained to aides being able to go out and provide support. The cluster aide goes into the room, supports a small group of students in the classroom, and those are in general education classes. At Knickerbocker, we're looking at adding 1 811 3rd and 4th grade teacher for next year. We currently have 1 kindergarten through 2nd grade 811 classroom that we just started in March. We really value and love our partnership with BOCES, but over the last few years, they've been struggling with staffing in their own programs, and we haven't been able to utilize their services the way we have in the past. So we met with BOCES and they said, if you can start your own programs, we would support that. So we did this year in March, start that. And next year we will be looking to continue with that continuum of services to meet some students that have some high level needs at Knickerbocker. At Starbuck, we are looking at adding 1 additional 12-1-3-1 teacher. We currently have 4 12-1-3-1 classrooms in the district. They are at Starbuck, Wiley, Case, and the high school. We've been at or above capacity in our elementary 12-1-3-1 classroom all year. And we've had some students that have moved into the district that need that level of support and services. So by adding an additional 12-1-3-1 at Starbuck, we will be able to meet those students' needs. At Case Middle School, we're looking at adding a 15-to-1 teacher. We have been at or above capacity all year in our 15-to-1 program at Case. We currently have 17 students in that classroom right now, and we have the need to add an additional program there to meet the students' needs for next year. We are looking at adding 12-1-3-1 TAs in all of our 12-1-3-1 programs throughout the district. This has been something that's been long needed. Our aides that are working in those classrooms are not able to stay alone in the classroom without having a teacher or a TA present. And these are high need students that are in these classrooms. With the TA support in those rooms, if there's a student that needs some additional support, the teacher can step out, address that, and the TA can step into the instructional role so that they're not missing out on instruction. It also will allow us to help with lunch coverage for our aides and for the special ed teachers so they get a break during the day. And then the additional 2 CSE chairs we're looking to add for next year. What we have right now are 2 CSE chairs that are in meetings 4 to 5 days a week, all day from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock, 13 meetings a day, and they're servicing several hundred students, like 500 students on their caseload. By adding 2 additional CSE chairs, this will allow those chairs to get out into buildings, into programs, meet with special ed classes, find out what's going well, what's not going well, plan over the summer for professional development, parent training, staff training, and what we can do to improve our special ed services within the district.
The things that I just want to tie in, Lynn, if you want to jump in, feel free. When you look at the special education part of our district, is we're really trying to perfect our continuum of services delivery model to make sure that we're meeting all of the needs of our students. When you look at some of the state reporting results that Lynn presented back in, I think, December, we had a school this year that was identified, Knickerbocker. There's a lot of amazing things happening with the plan that they're putting in place to address that have already been addressed this year. But when you look at the state identifiers for special education and other subgroups, it used to be 30 test scores. 30 test scores created a subgroup of students. And that's where that feedback was relayed on. Moving into next year, that is going to be moved to 20 test scores. If you think of those students that are taking ELA, math, and science, it's going to be really easy for schools and districts to be identified. This is an opportunity. So again, earlier when I said about the future thinking, this is an opportunity for us to address the needs and not necessarily always have to be reactive. We're trying to put systems and structures in place to be proactive, and we really believe with these services and supports, it's going to better meet the needs of our kids. When we look at our strategic plan on that wall, we're going to be able to improve graduation rates and graduation for all kids.
So we are very excited to launch a pilot of our own pre-K special ed classrooms right here in the Watertown City School District for next year. These two classrooms will be designed as special class integrated settings, which means that special education and gen ed students will be in the same classroom together. Each of these two classrooms will be staffed with one special ed teacher, one general education teacher, and one teaching assistant. And then to support our students and maintain high quality programming, we're also planning to hire one occupational therapist, one physical therapist, one speech therapist, and a school psychologist. The primary responsibility of those related service providers and school psychologists will be to support the students that are in the two new pre-K classrooms. And additionally, they will help balance caseloads and provide support across all of our other elementary buildings that we have here in the district. Just to highlight some of the benefits of having our own pre-K programs within our school district, research says that when you have a high quality pre-K classroom and early intervention services, that this helps with increasing our graduation rates for students, which is our first goal in our district strategic plan. We also know that having early intervention helps with the pre-K to kindergarten transition process, which is something that we've really tried to work hard on the last few years here in the district. In addition to that, all districts in our region have recently received state guidance encouraging districts to become approved preschool special ed providers due to a shortage of available services and a growing wait list. And in addition to that, out of a recent survey of 12 school districts around, 11 of those districts are actually providing their own pre-K services within district.
And Matt, just to add to that, the only one that is not currently, but will be next year is our school.
And, lastly, we believe as a district that this is a very positive and proactive step forward in meeting the needs of our youngest learners.
All right, last couple of topics on BOCES expenditures is increasing about $629,000. You'll see a big number there, $1.2 million increase in support services. IT is looking at doing a couple of different big projects for next year. Looks like there's a decrease of $420,000 in instructional programming over at BOCES. I will reiterate that there has been no cut in programming whatsoever. It is simply a reallocation of moving different programming to different codes in the general fund budget. And finally, we do have our administrative expenses through health insurance and workers' comp that are run through a BOCES poster so that we can receive aid on that. That's increasing about $230,000. We do receive almost 80% of our BOCES expenditures back in BOCES aid in the following year. And the last topic is employee benefits. This slide, I want to say it's a little bit deceiving because it shows it's decreasing by 500,000 when I did tell you from the beginning, health insurance went up 6%. Tier 4 ERS is at 19.6%. When we're going through the budget and trying to cut down some of the extra cushion and so forth, this was the big area where we were able to do that. Hence the decrease of $500,000. All right, and finally, the three-part summary. We are required to present this. It's administration, instruction, and capital parts of the budget. The admin is actually decreasing from 7.5 to $6.9 million. I'm gonna jump down to capital real quick, increasing just slightly by 800,000 from 14.3 to 15.1. But what we want to focus on instruction, and this is really where you want to see your increase, because this is where your programming is. And it's increasing from about 75 million to 81.7. So that is where you are seeing the increase in the budget. If I were going to reiterate, the tax levy is 2.44%. We are asking the voters to approve a 2.44% increase in taxes. So the school levy will equal the maximum allowed by law without a majority vote. Supermajority vote, excuse me. This slide is very tiny and I apologize for that, but basically in the city of Watertown, a $100,000 home is going to see about a $27 increase in taxes. Yeah, finally propositions, which I may continue.
So just Board of Education candidates, that's the first proposition. So you have the names that will be on the ballot that are running. We have 5 candidates. Proposition 2 are capital reserves. And so as you know, our current capital reserves, the voters approved us to expend that money for the $110 million capital project. The important part to mention there was that that had zero tax impact to our community. And now we are looking at future projects. Again, it's that future thinking. So we're looking at going out at a $15 million capital project. So this has to be, all of these propositions are voter approved to create and voter approved to expend, which is what we did with the 10 million for the $110 million capital project. With the cost of things going up, we thought it was important to raise that $15 million to $15 million. These, the lifespan on these are 10 years. And the other thing is when you cap it at a dollar amount, it's capped at that dollar amount. So if we put a proposition out that says 10 million, you can't earn $10 million $1. And so this, what we're hoping is that if we were to cap it at the 10 million, then it allows the district taxpayers to benefit from interest earnings throughout those 10 years before those 110 or the 15 million is expended. The furniture reserve. One of the things that's important to note when you're looking at, you know, when we met with the kids to go over the budget presentation and the capital project, they said, why don't you just build a new building? It would be amazing to have new buildings. Some of our buildings are extremely old. Many of you in the audience went to schools in the same schools, and some of them look the same. We're working on that. But one of the things that we were trying to explain to our students is when you go out in a district our size, with our ratios, to build a new building would cost the taxpayers 50%. Aid. And so with our 93 cents on a dollar that we get for renovations, obviously it's more beneficial to our taxpayers to renovate instead of rebuild. With that being said, you only get aid on furniture once. And so when we renovate a space, similar to what we did here at Wiley, when we renovated the music wing and the art wing, what we learned very quickly was that there was no new furniture to go in those brand new beautiful spaces. So we had to allocate that. This is a proposition asking our voters to create a $1 million savings account, if you will, to allow us to put money in this account to fund balance management at the end of the year over a 10-year period of time, so that when we're looking at renovating spaces, we can think about the entire space and not just the physical structure. And then the security proposition, this one was approved by our voters last year. This falls under the IT reserve. And so you'll see a proposition number 4 that states that. This is to purchase the open gate weapons detection units. We're going to be piloting those at case 3 at the high school. They do have the flexibilities to be moved if they were to be brought to an athletic event or so forth. And then the handheld radio systems, which is a huge upgrade. That is one of the propositions. The absentee ballots. So this just gives you some information there on our absentee ballots. And the open enrollment, the board voted last year, was it early this year? I think it was last year, in an event to create continuous voter registration. So if this is for people that are not registered with the county. If they're registered on the county list, they do not have to register with our registrar, which is our board clerk. But it is open between the offices hours of 8 and 3:30 for those people that are interested in doing that. And again, just a reminder that polls will be open on Tuesday, May 20th from 12 p.m. to 9 p.m. depending on where you are on the north side and over here at Watertown High School, our band room. Like many districts across the state, Watertown's fund balance saw a temporary increase due to one-time COVID relief funding and grant opportunities, which when we apply for grant opportunities, they relieve our tax burden. These dollars have helped offset expenses in areas like staffing, typically the largest part of any school district budget. Typically the staffing portion, when you look at salaries and benefits, is anywhere from 70 to 80%, allowing us to preserve local funds during the grant periods. Recognizing that these fund sources were temporary, we've made current and careful efforts to prepare for long-term sustainability without disrupting student programs. Additionally, our district has used fund balance strategically to invest in the future, most notably helping to fund our capital reserves. This forward-thinking approach enabled us to move ahead with a $110 million capital project without a tax impact to our taxpayers, a major benefit to our entire community. We expect our unrestricted fund balance to decrease accordingly as we continue this practice in alignment with our long-range facilities plan. Looking ahead to 2025-26, which this budget represents, Watertown is facing a 5.59% decrease in state aid, alongside increasing operational costs and ongoing uncertainty due to the delayed state budget. In light of this, maintaining a stable fund balance helps protect students and taxpayers from volatility, while ensuring continuity in our programming and avoiding reactive financial decisions like mid-year cuts or steep tax increases. We believe that our proposed budget strikes a balance between fiscal responsibility and our commitment to educational excellence. That concludes that portion.
Okay, at this time, if anybody who is here tonight would like to comment, floor is yours.
Like to speak on behalf of the budget. Is there a particular spot that we need to stand at? Okay, so, good evening. I recognize, some faces around the table and in the room, but for those of you who don't know me, my name is Lynn Petrosky. I am the CEO of the ARC Jefferson St. Lawrence. So I'm here this evening to speak on behalf of our preschool, our 4410 preschool, and some of the history behind it. So I know that you have heard our Director of Children's Services and Clinical Services share her concerns surrounding the UPK program. And again, those concerns remain a priority and are still relevant, but unfortunately, there has been no resolution. I think that the advocacy that has been done thus far by our local CBOs is honest, and I think it's relevant. I think we all can attest to the fact that the students we are seeing in our daycare settings, the UPK program, our 4410 preschool, are much different than 5 years ago, pre-COVID. So I do hope that we can resolve this issue with the UPK program. However, tonight I'm here to speak specifically about the 4410 preschool. So I was able to watch the meeting last week or last month on YouTube, and it was briefly touched upon that you were exploring the 4410 preschool. And Larry, I'm not sure you know much about our history, but I thought I would provide everybody a little bit of history about the ARC Jefferson St. Lawrence. So our agency was founded on parents that could not find adequate school programming for their children with disabilities. So what they did was took it upon themselves to start school in the basement of a church. And that is fair and adequate education and not be treated differently or public education. And now is public law. So each operating budget for our agency. So although not a large program, it's still very important to us. As a standalone 4410 preschool, as I mentioned, it does run with a slight deficit or even almost a break even, but it is a critical part of our menu of services that we offer. I share this because I want to convey our passion for special education and the needs for our community. And when I'm speaking to new employees within our agency, we employ almost 1,200 employees. And I always use the statement that about ensuring early intervention and universal pre-kindergarten and preschool services are in place. We agree. That statement is profound to me. So to my knowledge, right now, the ARC Jefferson St. Lawrence and the Bright Beginnings Early Learning Center is currently the only approved 4410 preschool in this community that complies with all rules and regulations set forth by New York State Department of Education. And we pride ourselves on that. I have been made aware that there is a program operating out of Ohio Street School that could be considered like a 4410, But I honestly don't believe that is the case, as it has been stated that it only accepts Watertown City School District students. At Bright Beginnings, we accept students from all districts as it is a requirement for our license. I understand there is a need in our community for special education services for preschool students. Truly, I do. I've seen our waiting list. I have fielded calls from parents asking about placement for their loved one. However, we have always been willing to collaborate with all districts, most specifically Watertown. We are continually turned away because we are told that there is not a need to support it. So much to my surprise, hearing this, it's very interesting to me. But year after year, we have shared with school personnel that if there is a need, we would be willing to expand our services. However, if the district is proposing a 4410, then that does tell me there is a need. Additionally, as much as we have shared our desire to partner and work with Watertown City School District, we were not asked, and I understand that the school is not required to ask us to be a partner, but we share the same community. I know our team, as well as myself, was very disheartened to learn that the school district was looking to move forward with 2 4410 SCIS classrooms. I understand you're already in partnership with another provider at Ohio that really isn't part of our community. As I said, this was discouraging for our agency to hear, as we've had a long-standing relationship with Watertown City School District. We've always gone above and beyond for the district. However, it is my opinion that the potential opening of these classrooms is retaliatory in nature because the ARC continually pushes back, ensuring that all rules and regulations are being met. We hold our own employees to the same standards of following the rules. They are not given any special treatment. They are not allowed to bump their child in front of any other student on a waiting list, and they too have to wait their turn for their child. You can imagine my shock when I had an employee share with me that their 3-year-old daughter, who was just diagnosed with autism, was offered to be placed on a waiting list at Bright Beginnings, or she could attend a 4410 preschool in Pulaski. I ask every one of you sitting around this table, would you want that for your child? Would you want your child driving or being bused an hour to receive services that could be available in our community? Especially a child that is currently nonverbal, newly diagnosed autistic, and has never received out-of-home childcare. I think our community and our district is much better than that. I think our families deserve more. I think our students deserve more. The cost of transporting a student out of the district is about $100,000. I think that money can be better used within our community. The difference between the ARC and school districts, such as Watertown, is we're community leaders that are responsible for all students in our community and the surrounding communities. But we cannot operate in silos. We have to lead the change to ensure that all students' educational needs are met. ARC has several unfunded positions that complement or support the needs of special education students. But we choose to do this because we want to ensure our students are successful. So it does sound like our missions are aligning. We offer health home case management services to children and their families. In general, these services mirror the service that we probably all remember as a homeschool coordinator, that connection between school and home. There are gaping holes in our service delivery model. Our program is designed to treat the whole student and their needs as well as their aspirations. I would invite anyone from the board to come visit our program at 420 Gaffney Drive and witness firsthand the diversity and the endless opportunities that we offer to our students. I do not think there is one person here that would not appreciate the comprehensive service that is performed each and every day at our center. For our agency, we don't have a choice of which students we serve or which district they are from. We have to serve all students from all districts in Jefferson, St. Lawrence, Lewis, and Oswego counties. In addition, I know many have used it or will use it against us that our catchment area is too large. However, we are in the planning process of opening a 4410 in St. Lawrence County because it's not fair to the students to have to travel that far to receive service and instructions. We are currently exploring regional need. We currently provide related services and early intervention at our facilities in Canton, New York. We have a positive working relationship with many of the districts as well as the county. And we are working toward addressing the needs in St. Lawrence County as well. To our own demise, we lead our agency with our hearts, because the children we meet at 3 months old that we're doing evaluations on then become students in our early intervention program. And then they become students in our preschool program. And then they become adults that live in our residential homes. So we see the full circle of life. We are a financially strong organization that is reputable in our community and across New York State. We seem to be fighting against one another for the same outcome of providing premier educational opportunities for students of all abilities. I am born and raised here, and I think as a result, I lead with passion to provide services to those in our community. Our art community is large, and I recognize that that is not the same for Watertown City School District, nor is it necessarily your problem. But I still believe we should be on the same team fighting on behalf of the community. When I thought about the district opening a 4410 preschool, there were several things that were worrisome to me. It was not the financial ramifications to the ARC Jefferson St. Lawrence. As I indicated, it's 5% of our operating budget. So it was more about the staffing. I was concerned for staffing competition. I'm sure Larry has shared with all of you that finding credentialed staff is a huge challenge when you have OT, PT, speech, special education teachers. Well, Monday, my worst fears came true. We had 2 clinical staff interview for a preschool program here at the school, and were preliminarily offered positions with this school. I don't think we want to be in a position where we're stealing staff from one organization or one school district to the other. It is not conducive for the students and the families. Our agency does not have an option to pass increased costs onto our taxpayers. We have to be resourceful and look at other ways to offset program expenses that may exceed our revenue, and not rely on other programs internally to continually cover those expenses. We come close to closing that gap every year, and we are proud of our efforts because we always stay true to our mission. So I will leave you with this. We operate 7 integrated classrooms that serve 120 students for just shy of $5 million annually. We've been doing this programming for over 70 years. We have special education teachers, early education teachers, teachers' assistants, clinical staff, nursing staff, and an administrative team. We run a fantastic program, albeit not perfect, but we try. So I leave you with why recreate the wheel? Why not look at collaborating to provide more opportunities for students in an already established program? This would be a conscious, financially responsible approach for both entities. We would optimize community resources that we already share. And how do we work towards improving the relationship between Watertown City School District and the ARC? We have always worked in tandem with the district, and it does not feel that way anymore. And we need to take care of all of our students. We are one of 35 ARC chapters across New York State. And our philosophy within the ARC New York model is we are stronger together. And I believe that to be the case here. Thank you.
Wait, Lynn, I have a question for you,
Okay.
if you don't mind. So the 120 children that you have, is that a combination of gen ed and special ed kids?
Yes, we have the UPK program.
Right.
We have private pay daycare. And then we have in each classroom, with the exception of the 611, we have 811. So we have 8 special ed students.
So about how many special ed kids can you house at your program?
8, 48, and 6, 54,
50.
depending on the age. I'm giving you a rough number
Okay.
because we do
So you
611.
can provide special ed services for 54 kids with a budget of just shy of 5 million.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Now that's other children's. We have a direct
Right.
contract with Potsdam,
Right.
so it would technically be less than that.
Right, but you have 54 special ed kids.
Yes,
Within that program with a budget of probably 5 million.
yes.
Thank you.
Thank
like
you very
to-
much.
Thank you.
piggyback on that, if you're finished, and if there were no other.
I'm done, thanks.
Yep, my name is Mandy Burt. I am the owner and CEO of the Treehouse Childcare Center. And I'm here tonight on behalf of many of the community-based organizations that partner with the district to run the UPK programs. These community-based organizations are longstanding community business members, and we have one of the most important jobs, which is partnering with parents to raise the next generation of citizens for our community. Nothing that I'm going to say here tonight is going to be anything new for any of you because we've had these conversations. But I think it's important to restate the facts so that the public can understand and is aware of the efforts that we have gone through to try to resolve this matter behind closed doors and our attempts to follow the proper communication channels to bring to light a severe oversight in regards to a critical juncture we have encountered in the Watertown City School District's pre-K programs. Childcare in our community and pre-K as we've known it for the last few decades is in danger, and our efforts to collaborate with district administration have apparently fallen short. As the primary advocates and experts in the community when it comes to early childhood education, we have made every effort to bring forward the realities we're facing and to seek collaboration in addressing them. However, the proposed budget that was presented at the April 14th, 2025 Board of Education meeting made it clear that our concerns continue to be disregarded. Instead, there appears to be a pattern of dismissal and at times consequences for those who raise these issues. For this reason, we feel compelled to bring these matters to the attention of the broader community. Our intent is not to criticize, but to advocate. We are deeply committed to this district and to the success of every student it serves. That is why we're speaking now, to stand together in the hope that informed, responsible decisions are made for the future of our UPK program and the well-being of the entire school community. So before I go into the issues at hand, I would like to help the public understand how UPK works. UPK stands for Universal Pre-Kindergarten Program. The state gives grant money to school districts to offer free universal pre-K to preschool students within the school district. The district contracts with community-based organizations, which we refer to as CBOs, to pay those who are already running childcare facilities to house those slots. This is best practice because if a school district does not partner with CBOs, the daycare programs that are in our city that are already giving care to children, then daycare in the community would collapse. And there would be even less slots for infants, toddlers, and preschool-aged children. And we all know that there's already a lack of childcare. So the partnership between the school district and the CBOs is essential to a thriving, healthy childcare ecosystem. Watertown has always contracted 100% of its UPK program to CBOs, again, which is best practice. And we have, up until recently, had a very healthy relationship. We supported the district, and the district helped support childcare in our community. With that being said, the number one issue that we're facing in pre-K is that we are severely underfunded. In fact, CBOs that provide UPK for Watertown City School District preschool students have not received a rate increase to the UPK slots we offer to the district for over 10 years. Instead, we have received a decrease to our rate reimbursement over these last 10 years. Additionally, over the past few years, the requirements that the district has mandated in order to maintain a UPK partnership with each CBO have continued to grow. Costly requirements that don't exist in other school district UPK programs. So the district has not increased its rates to CBOs while simultaneously asking more out of them. For perspective, staff salaries have increased by 75%, and the cost of materials and equipment have also nearly doubled over these last 10 years. The district itself recognizes the rising costs in staff pay and materials. We just went through all of that. And adjusts its budget annually to recognize the rising costs in staff pay and materials. Yet the district's funding to pay for UPK slots has remained stagnant. For families paying for childcare, it is well understood that rates increase annually to account for the minimum wage standards and the increasing costs of goods and services. However, while parents are expected to manage these increases, the school district, despite offering a childcare service through UPK, does not carry this burden. Though UPK is not typically referred to as childcare in layman's terms, it serves as such for many working families. The question then arises, why should parents bear the burden of rising costs while the district compensates providers significantly below fair market value? Currently, the district's reimbursement for UPK slot is 60 to 90% lower than the fair market rate, a disparity that is neither sustainable nor equitable. Additionally, preschool students with disabilities have been denied the critical supports required by law to succeed in the general education setting. This failure to provide appropriate services in the general education setting within our classrooms has put both our organizations and the children we serve at a considerable disadvantage. All three of these issues, the extreme lack of funding, the increase in requirements to remain a partnering organization, and the denial of supports for special education students, have been shared and presented to both district administration and the Board of Education. We've been actively advocating to work toward a collaborative solution for several months. In spite of this, and in response to the information we presented, the district stood firm on their requirements without revising any of them, and the budget they proposed to the Board of Education lacked any additional funding for the CBOs. Let me tell you the consequences of not properly funding UPK. Besides the fact that we're not able to offer the high quality environments that lend toward a healthy brain development. And we all know, not all professionals know, that 90% of a child's brain is fully developed by the age of 5 years old. So making sure that they're in high quality environments before the age of 5 is extremely important and pays dividends on the back end when they're into the school system. So here are the consequences of not properly funding UPK for our community. CBOs cannot afford to continue providing UPK at the current rates we are receiving from the district. More than half of UPK slots are being run within buildings owned and operated by CBOs. Watertown is in danger of losing up to half of its UPK program, roughly 200 slots, because of the district's refusal to reimburse slots at market rates. If the district decides to take over and run its own UPK program outside of the CBOs, which would be more costly to the district, by the way, you may start to see childcare, including UPK, collapse in our community, as we can't compete with free preschool. And you may lose not just preschool slots, but also infant and toddler slots. Additionally, it's the CBOs that offer the wraparound care, as working parents usually need care past 1 p.m. So you'll see those slots go as well. If the district continues to ignore these issues, parents will be out of childcare, businesses will have an even harder time hiring and retaining employees, and this will affect our entire community. Our ask was very reasonable. We asked to increase our rates by 15% and a percentage every year thereafter. That's just under $535,000 for this coming school year, much lower than the $1.2 million that was proposed in this budget for UPK by the district administration. The district's funding, as proposed, would only support 2 classrooms that would be designated as special education classrooms, where our ask would benefit all UPK students. It's also important to note that opening more special education classrooms is not necessarily the answer, as children should be afforded a one-to-one aid in a general education environment before being put in the most restrictive environment of a special class in an integrated setting. Until just last month, preschool students have been unlawfully denied access to one-to-one aids. It was only through the continued advocacy of CBOs that these special education students began receiving these critical supports that they're entitled to under the law. Without our advocacy efforts, this would never have happened. Should the district move forward without community-based partners, It risks silencing the voices that have consistently advocated for the rights and needs of these children. We have been your childcare providers for decades. CAPC, New Day, First Step Daycare, Jefferson Campus Care, Bright Beginnings at the Arc, Treehouse Child Care Center. We've cared for your infants, toddlers, and prepared your preschoolers for school. We're not asking for a handout. We are asking that we receive fair market rates for the slots the district is using in our programs, and to allow us to do our jobs to provide high-quality early childhood education programs. We're asking to be treated as partners with the district and experts in the community, and to continue the long-standing partnership that has been an integral part of this school district. We do not want to see the district lose any UPK slots. I want to pause here because I would like to present a question to the board. I'm going to be honest with you, it was really hard to sit here and listen to all of the asks, all of the cost increases, and I understand like what you're trying to do is provide an excellent program. So are we. We also have the cost increases. Our national grid bill is also going up. Our staff salaries also go up. Over the last 10 years, they have continued to increase and they continue to increase more. And you guys have asked the public to increase taxes to support what you're trying to do. Yet when we came and asked and said, we can't support on this amount of money and we're asking for increase, it's really hard that it was not reflected in the budget. So up until that meeting on April 14th, we were to the understanding that we had the support of the board. So I just want to ask the board, do you have any intention to ensure that the budget reflects an increase in rates for partnering CBOs?
So I'm going to comment on this because I'm a little perplexed about what's going on here. So when I went back and I looked at the meeting from April 14th, and you proposed in the budget for the first time to the board about special ed. I am part of the finance committee, and so is Randy, and so is Cully, and that was never discussed unless I wasn't at a meeting. It was never brought up. And now we have these two organizations here talking about how they're being slighted, and I'm going to use their words. This is all retaliatory. My understanding is that we were working towards this. You're right. There is no designated amount in the budget, but yet we have a $7 million cost for special ed for universal pre-K.
That is not $7 million for universal pre-K. That's 1.2 million. You said 1.3. That's 1.2 million that's built in for pre-K.
Okay, so the budget though went up to $103 million. And I understand it is, in my personal opinion, I just feel like you have these organizations here. They're seasoned, they know what they're doing. So why wouldn't we partner with them? Why would you want to introduce a legacy cost to our district for salaries, health benefits, increase, as the years go on? This is a legacy implementation. I mean, you guys are all, there's 7 of us here. You guys, you can chime in. I was never told of this. I never understood that. And I specifically asked you, I don't have this slide. What is this about? And I specifically asked at the last board meeting, are the CBOs aware of this? And you said, no, we're waiting for the budget to pass. And I understood that this was in collaboration with the CBOs. And now I'm understanding that it's not.
Thank you. I'm not going to comment until you're done. And then if you would like, I can add some comments, but
Well,
because you're sharing some things that shouldn't be shared in this meeting because we're currently undergoing a CBO process. So you've crossed that line. So I have some comments that I'll share, but I'll wait till you're done.
Well, I do have 2 quotes that I'll read that were actually pulled from the UPK consolidation report. It is my understanding that the state is trying to increase funding for UPK. We're hopeful, and we do advocate for that as well. But this report specifically had a quote. So it says, research also indicates that as much as 1/2 of the achievement gap is already established before students enter kindergarten. Investing in high-quality pre-kindergarten programs has demonstrated to have a positive, long-term impact on children's life outcomes, narrowing the achievement gap between adequately served and underserved youth, and providing benefits to children and taxpayers that outweigh their cost. High-quality pre-kindergarten programs, especially those that provide full-day services and serve low-income or high-need students, help those students stay on track to graduate from high school and, over the long term, significantly reduce costs for remedial education, social services, health, and criminal justice programs. So I would ask if we actually believe this. The second quote is, according to the National Institute of Early Education Research's State of Preschool 2023 yearbook, perhaps the most remarkable finding in our report is that real spending per child on state pre-K has not improved in 2 decades. That lack of progress is hard to comprehend, considering that both K-12 spending per pupil and gross domestic product per capita increased by nearly 30% over the same period. Whether to commit to and adequately fund quality public early education may be the most important choice that states, but also cities and the federal government face today and over the next several years. We recognize the roles of cities because in many states where quality is lagged, cities have stepped up to raise standards and provide additional funding. So my question then to the board would be, are you going to be the school district that steps up and provides the funding needed to achieve high quality in pre-K? I will. Thank you.
My comments are going to be for the public, so that everyone knows, because you heard a lot of information just now in the last 2 presentations. We are currently undergoing an RFP process, which stands for Request for Proposals. So there are a lot of comments I would like to share this evening that I will not be able to share, and our CBOs know that. The next thing I will say is that I did write letters, and our board is aware. I did write letters to our legislatures to advocate for increased pre-K funding. But I will also share is when I was in Albany, I also lobbied on the idea of increasing pre-K funding. So I just want to put that clarity to that. The other thing I would like to say as far as funding is based when it comes to pre-K. The state gives us the allocations that can be used for pre-K. I want that to be clear. As Bree said in our budget presentation with the 3.18% of foundation aid, we don't know what we're getting. But we also have heard word that the state is considering increasing that allocation. If that allocation increases, it follows our CBOs. The next thing that I want to mention is best practice, because it was mentioned best practice. The state has a rule when it comes to universal pre-K that 90% of universal pre-K can be provided within the district. 10% can be provided with CBOs. Currently, the district is 100%, as you may have heard, partnering with CBOs. Adding these classrooms moves our percentage to 90-10. It still is flipped on what the state considers best practice. What we look at, when you look at schooling over the last several years and decades, there has been a significant increase in students receiving special education services. Our goal as a district, as I said earlier, is to be future thinking. It's not looking at limiting services that kids can get. But when my team hears that there's a need, we jump to do something about it. And that's exactly what we are doing. And I will reserve the rest of those comments for a later day. The other thing is that related services. So on the budget for the $1.2 million, it is adding 2 classrooms. One of the things that we heard is that the increased needs of students that maybe are not your high need students, but maybe your medium tiered students that need that level of support, that maybe we're not able to get the support because of limited services. By our district adding to these 4410s, which we have every legal right to operate our own universal pre-K classrooms, which the state, as Matt Burdick said in his presentation, the state has asked all districts because of the increased need to address the increased need. When it comes to related service providers, one of the things that we heard was that Not all kids get related services because there's a wait list. When you hear that comment and you're an educator, you do something about it. Hiring an OT, PT, speech and related service and a psych not only benefits the 2 classrooms that we are proposing to our community, but it benefits any kid. The CBOs run our programs. So it's not theirs, there are programs that they run. There are students, there are parents, there are communities. And so these programs that are being run, these related service providers can support all of our students that have that level of need. So I just wanted that to be somewhat more clear that it's not just for the 2 classrooms. Yeah. That's it.
I'd like to say one more thing about that, because you had said that UPK, you're only taking the state funding, which the school district can, and other school districts do pitch in their own funding to help support UPK. But you had told us that Watertown City School District can only take what the state gives for UPK funding to use for UPK. Yet you just proposed 1.2 million for the district-run UPK classrooms. So you have staff salaries in there that you can pay state certified teachers, where our rates have not increased at all. How can we hire state certified teachers? We're going to lose them to the school district. And it's very frustrating. That's one of the biggest things that we struggle with is staff turnover. And it's very difficult because our staff are already underpaid. So if we're not getting any increase in funding, how are we able to retain the high level staff that is required by the district, that we have state certified teachers, yet not give us the funding in order to hire them, but then fund your own district run classrooms, fully funded without anything additional to support the CBOs?
Okay, what I said, and then I'm done with that comment, is we have worked with our legislatures on advocating. What I would recommend to our CBOs to do the exact same thing.
We do.
So that we're all on the same page for trying to advocate for my UPK.
So I have a question. Where are these kids gonna go? Where are you gonna house? Yeah, where are you gonna house?
In our classrooms in our
Where?
district.
What building?
We don't have that decision made yet, so that's.
Well, it's a little concerning to me because we currently don't have any space. So, like she just informed us, and I think she said it before, but I finally caught on, the CBOs, their pre-K programs are run in our buildings.
Some of them are, and most of them are not.
So does this mean, do we have to be concerned about the fact that eventually going to be classrooms lost to some of these CBOs because we have to house our own 4410 program?
I wouldn't say lost. I'm in the one situation when you saw that we're increasing a class size for 1st grade. Those are the district classrooms that are going to need that space. So, but I'm not willing to comment on the location yet because I don't have that yet.
Okay, well, I think that's probably a fear, but I just think as a board, I don't, maybe you sent us some communication, but definitely when we sat at the finance committee, I don't know if the vice president or Cully want to pitch in, but I don't remember being told about the special ed, 1.1 million special ed. I never heard that until April 14th. You've got 2 community partners here. I think it is our obligation as a board and as a district to make sure that our partners are brought into the decision-making process and that we need to address their concerns and we need to address how they are negatively or positively affected by these decisions. I feel that as a board, and I'm part of this board and I was not part of any decision to put special ed or 4410. We're proposing 2 4410s for 16 kids. They house 54 kids. I don't know how many other special ed kids are there. So clearly, this is affecting them. This to me seems like a policy change. We are implementing a whole new program, and this was never brought to the board to talk about or to
So I
decide.
kindly disagree with what you're saying, and it was brought to the board, and when you voted yes on the budget on the 14th, was when it was brought to the board.
Well, you know
And it
what?
was also
I'm just gonna be
mentioned in
completely
F&M.
honest with you. I feel tricked. I feel tricked because when she presented that, I specifically said, I don't have the slide. I specifically said, I don't remember any of this. And I specifically asked, are the CBOs okay with this? So I feel like I'm tricked, and I'm an intelligent person. I pay attention. I read everything. I look at everything. And in fact, I said, why don't we have these slides? And you said it was updated. I didn't get any notification that something was updated on there. So you have two community partners that are coming here to express their dismay at this decision that's gonna fully impact and not to even consider the pillars of special ed, which is the park. We haven't even brought them in here to say, what do you think? Why wouldn't we consider having people that are experienced grow their program, fund them? They know what they're doing. They've been providing this for years, 1954. Why would we want to take on that legacy cost? I think this seems to me like it's a policy change. The district has not decided we're gonna now implement our own pre-K program. That's great that you're advocating for that. But you're saying the district has now decided. What district? I didn't decide anything. My input wasn't asked. We have never discussed bringing a pre-K program here. We have never discussed bringing a 4410 here. And not one, but two.
Just to make it clear, I know you're talking policy, which the board has direct supervision over. This is not a policy matter. This is a management. This is a class size, class layout that has nothing to do with policy.
So implementing a new program is not a policy.
It's
It's
not
not a change in structure. So in other words, what you're saying is that you don't feel the board has any input on that? That this is an
The board had
administrative decision?
input. There's F and F committee that you could have provided input. There was last budget meeting, which you could have provided input.
And I'm telling you, it was
Provided.
never brought to my attention. I'm there all the time. So my position right now is that before this budget goes out into the community, because this is not gonna look good, these optics are not good, that we should, as a board, we really should be talking about this, because if this was presented, then we wouldn't have two new people here today talking about this, especially the ARC. The ARC's never even said anything. So I think we owe it to our community, and I think we owe it to our community partners that we should be discussing this as a board. Is this a good decision? This decision should not be made in a vacuum, and right now I feel like it was made in a vacuum, and I honestly feel tricked. I feel like I was tricked into approving and supporting something that, to my knowledge, was not clearly defined. And it would be very interesting, and I'd be very appreciative if other board members had some thoughts on that. Do you have any thoughts, Mr. President? On all these comments?
I'll
Yeah,
listen to both sides here.
so you don't have any?
That's what I'm doing.
Okay. Randy, you don't have a comment either?
Just to say that we put a lot of faith and trust in our administration. They brought us to this point. This is not a policy decision. We've had lots of opportunities to be aware of what's happening and ask questions. Every board member has had that right and privilege. And I think it's unfortunate. The real unfortunate part is that we're talking about it now,
Because it just came out. Do you
Well,
not see that?
but not really.
What,
This,
really?
we have been taught, threads of this have been weaved throughout the last 2
Really?
months. Yeah.
So you
So
saying
I'm-
that the
so
ARC
I'm
knew?
not gonna have a back and forth with you.
Okay.
I've said what I want to say and I'm done with that.
Okay. It's not appreciated.
It's not often that I speak. I'm Kevin Todd. I'm president of the Watertown Education Association. I represent all of the educators in the district. The last time I spoke was probably 2 years ago. I think it was your first meeting. I spoke about potholes, physical and actual things in the earth, but also in our curriculum. I am the #1 advocate in this district for the kind of continuum of services that you've mentioned. I push for it constantly, whether it's the art program at Case Middle School or the music program at Case Middle School, the additions of Cyclone Academy at the high school, the additions to our special education program. I'm here to celebrate this budget. I don't understand this negativity that's happening. This budget is an amazing thing. It's something that we have fought for decades in this district. I go back 10 years ago. If you look at our budget 10 years ago, mainly because of New York State and foundation aid, we had a $63 million budget. We're now $40 million above that, providing programs we could have never hoped to have provided even 10 years ago. I go back 5 years before COVID. Our budget 5 years ago was $77 million. I went back today to look at it, right? So in 5 years, we've increased $30 million. What has that allowed us to do? All these wonderful things that are turning negative. I'm not really sure where we're at in this meeting. I look at special education. You referenced that your organization was created because of lack of services in school. And I see a school stepping up to provide the services in 2 wonderful classrooms, and they're attacked for it. That amazes me. absolutely amazes me. I would relish it if I was your organization. Finally, some of the burden is taken off of you. You might be able to spread to the other districts that are not providing us this wonderful kind of inclusion that we're adding. So I'm here to celebrate the budget. I don't understand. I'm naive, I guess. I don't understand what is going on. I suppose negativity breeds negativity, but I'm a positive person. And I think the potholes not only have been filled, thanks to the board, but they are, we're actually growing mountains, if you want. When it comes to the programs that we're creating, the opportunities that we have, whether it's bowling, the marching band that we're creating, all the things that have been missing because our budget, because of New York State primarily, because of foundation aid, because of GEA and gap elimination, all the negativities of the last 20 years are gone. So I'm not going to get involved in the politics of passing money from the state through to these organizations. I think your organization provides a wonderful service. I think our school provides a wonderful service, and I know these special education teachers that are being hired. The one thing that I will say, what they will help with is the number one issue I've been dealing with over the last, I would say, 3 years is, I would call it a crisis from kindergarten to first grade of students coming into our school for the first time who have special needs of a variety. And we struggle to help them over the first year because we have not provided for them because they've been in outside agencies. I love the idea that they'll be in our schools from 3, 4, whatever age they'll be here, provided services by our teachers, and hopefully providing spaces for others in the community and the districts around as those students are ours. So that's all I have to say. Thank you. Thank you for a wonderful budget and the
I'm not a negative person, so please don't mistake me for that. But I would ask this superintendent, do you know how many Watertown schools or kids are at our school? And do you know how many are on the waiting list?
Hopefully this program addresses that, and I do not have the specific numbers to
I
share
do.
with the waiting. Hopefully these programs address what we've just said about the waiting.
Okay, I do have that number. It's 10. We have 10 students at our preschool and you only have 4 on the waiting list. So I agree. I celebrate in the successes as well. And Watertown doesn't have a lot of kids in the special ed program. So we are able to afford that opportunity to other school districts. And I do recognize your efforts in all that you do in our district. But I think it is important to note, if you're going to say something like that, have the data to support it. Thank you.
Hi, Kristen LaBarge, parent here in the district. I would like to start by recognizing the opportunity to champion the district goals with this budget, which are to increase the graduation rate and student engagement. I especially love seeing the increased transportation options so that students are better able to engage with after-school activities or arrive tardy instead of taking an entire absence. Those are differences that establish access for many of our students. I also appreciate the increase in special education centered supports and also the expansion to the concept of Cyclone Academy. I would like to see an increase in support for staff on navigating dysregulation, especially with actual neuroaffirming practices. This would help alleviate a number of challenges and ultimately impact those graduation rates and engagement goals and increase a sense of belonging for many students. We do have a number of great supports in place, some proposed. I look forward to seeing how the roaming elementary TA works for those schools that are having them added, and there's still room to grow. Let me be clear. I'm aware that teachers have a tremendous load on their plate. I'm not a teacher, but I've been inside running classrooms. Teachers don't get enough credit, especially in public education, which is under increased scrutiny and attack. Our children's needs are growing. With the work I've been involved in, with 8 years and counting, I've seen those needs increase across the span of many districts, not just in Watertown. Kids are starting school with more challenges and delays and needs. More 504s and IEPs are established that folks need to be aware of. There's a lack of providers. Then there's unique challenges of the low-income community, trauma, other factors that compound in the classroom before the bell ever rings. On top of that, our teachers are expected to engage, assist, support, grade, plan, lead, embrace, challenge, communicate, and somehow find time to take care of their own needs. By the way,
I just wanted to hat tip to our teachers, as this is Teacher Appreciation Week and Teacher Appreciation Day. I wanted to throw in celebratory message to those as well. Thank you for all you do. I hear from teachers who say they don't have enough time in the day. Sometimes they have to support students during recess or lunch, that it's overwhelming. Some feel they are always stopping class time to put out those little fires, so to speak, or that they have ideas to support students but aren't sure if such universal accommodations are permissible or best practice. So when I'm listening to this budget, I'm especially listening for the ways that we are proposing to better support our teachers in classrooms. Because without that support, we don't have a quality education. And I do see and hear that intent in a number of creative ways throughout this budget. Now, I want to stop and disclose for those that may not know, I do serve as a board member for one of the collaborating pre-K agencies. I am not speaking on behalf of my board or the agency. I am sharing of my own free will. Focus on pre-K is our earliest opportunity to increase the graduation rate and increase both student engagement as well as parent involvement in the WCSD's mission to create lifelong learners. We have heard throughout this presentation how costs are increasing. Benefits are increasing, staying competitive with rising minimum wage, inflation, liability, transportation, and increases in supplies. We know as a district that these expenses are increasing across the board, and they are increasing for more than just us. That means then that they are increasing for our pre-K collaborating agencies. Now, I did ask some questions during the public presentation that I don't believe the elected board members were present for. So I just wanted to acknowledge that I do appreciate Dr. Schmiegel's sentiment that the CBOs are providing services for a grant-funded initiative, and he was advocating for an increase in funding from the state. That's commendable, that's awesome, that's necessary. We need that from multiple institutions and individuals. So I just wanted to commend that. But I find that other school districts have readily been able to scale their support for pre-K services as needed, regardless of stagnant grant funds. Based on our current financial situation, if we can invest in 2 new pre-K classrooms, I am hopeful that means we are in a position to more readily financially support our existing CBO-run pre-K rooms. Beyond these points, I do recognize financial concerns of the overall public regarding the 2.44% tax levy. Times are tough. Money is tight, if not tumultuous. However, it's not optimal to get caught in a situation of fluctuations that ultimately require a nail-biting supermajority of approval, or as we have seen in some other communities, navigating the disapproval. And so while I too have been tightening my own personal budget, I do approve of and respect that decision to levy no more than 2.44%. Lastly, I'm looking forward to the increased safety and communication benefits of the radio system, pending voter approval of Prop 4. And I'll finish by thanking the poll workers for their time and effort spent to allow school district voters the ability to exercise their official input. Thank you.
Marilyn Trainer. I've been in the water down in Homer. I've had a great interest in the north of my life. I had a particularly strong interest in the Watertown City School District since 1997. And during my lifetime, I have worked or gone to school almost every year. And so with that, I attended the initial, one of the earlier presentations on the budget. And it was at that time that I made up my mind that I was going to come tonight because I didn't speak at that particular meeting. But what really struck me as I watched the presentation that night, as well as tonight, was the tremendous instructional thrust of the district. And Kevin mentioned this when he was talking about what times were like before because of the state and various things. But it takes courage to put forth a budget that is going to cause a modest increase in taxes, but for the purpose of touching every level, every school in the district. And I think one of the things that was most striking was that as whether it was Matt or Dr. Schmiegel, or I think there was someone else that spoke about the Bree, about the different parts of the district, how much they could articulate why each of those positions is needed and what impact that's going to have on students. And so often I've listened to people who work maybe in administration in districts and they know the numbers and they put them out there, but they can't get right down into why do we need another teacher assistant at Ohio and Sherman and Knickerbocker? Why would that be necessary? And they said, well, the buildings will benefit from this. No, Dr. Schmeigel was able to say specifically, it will help the overall building operate. It will give the principal more time to be in a classroom, looking at instruction. We haven't talked at all about professional development tonight. The idea, we think about what is the heart of teaching. Teaching is showing how. So if we want to be able to show how to students, how to learn, how to read, how to graduate from high school, it's going to take modeling. It's going to take not only the people that we hire, but the staff members that we have, evaluating programs, looking at them and saying, are these meeting the needs of our kids? When a child enters, whether it's UPK or kindergarten or third grade, it doesn't matter. Whatever, when they enter, they should have a reasonable chance, most likely, that they are going to graduate from high school. And I'm so pleased that when I look at the strategic plan and I look at the goals, that increasing the graduation rate is such a high priority, because what is the real mark of how successful our schools are? It's the fact that students are here for 12 or 13 or 14 years and that they finish and that they can go in the military, they can go into the workforce, or they can continue in higher education. But for years, this district has struggled to get many of our students across that bar in graduation. And so when I hear about things like the Cyclone Academy, and my initial beginning in education was at the middle school level. You know, it's a combination of the elementary school, kids that aren't even thinking about what it's like to be in the middle school yet. And the rest of them are already looking at graduating. They're already looking at boys or girls and what's going to be coming next. But what we want is we want to be able to capture these students as they go through that transition through the middle school. So the fact that Cyclone Academy has been successful in the community, and I've heard remarks about it too, but not only has it been successful, now we're saying, all right, middle school kids, it's the reason we have middle schools now, we don't have junior highs anymore, because they're not just like miniature versions of a high schooler, where they have their own unique characteristics and they have their own unique needs, and they need programs that are just right for them. So the idea of both helping catch up and support those kids that are struggling, but also looking at kids who have the ability to go ahead and take a piece of high school. There's just so many more opportunities. And I think it is a very exciting time for Watertown to put forth a budget that tends so much to instruction and really puts that out there as the priority. Thank you.
Michael Strukin, district parents. I've been a middle English language arts teacher for the past 25 years, the bulk of my career at Indian River High School. So I have witnessed the power and the impacts of progressive budgets, old budgets, and actionable budgets and projects that have transformed our district up there to provide plenty of offerings, many, many opportunities, and to be clear, a graduation rate above 90%. And being at the secondary level in that district for such a long time, we still have the high needs that you have here. We still have the students who need attention, need to be steered toward graduation, who need to be encouraged and helped along the way. And how do you think we have allowed that to happen in our district? We have allowed that to happen in large part with the people and the staff that work with our children and help our children and guide our children all along their path. What excites me in particular about the graduation rate here and how it can change, how we can actually improve it, is by finally having some progressive policy come down from the states, which will be occurring in just a couple of years, when the portrait of a graduate measures are implemented. And we have a situation where Regents exams become optional and students can show their worth and their ability. And we can actually do the things that are listed on the board. Individualized learning, engagement, attention, to meet these students where they are. So if we start now with an actionable, progressive, bold budget like we're doing, to plug the holes, to fill the gaps, to address the needs, we will only be in a forward position to continue to that transition, because I do think it will be transformational. I can't think of a more transformational state policy in my career, because as Kevin said, we went through a lot of dark times earlier with state policy that was rigid and inflexible. We are finally in a more progressive era with state policy. We have to seize that and take advantage of it. And I think this budget, being as bold as it is, being staff focused, will go a long way toward providing a starting point for that to continue to grow. And I think in the next few years, we will see a graduation rate rise with those opportunities to provide those things we know that we can, because I have seen it happen. I've been a part of that process. I know what it's requiring. And I know the strength of the people that have gotten us to that point. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else tonight? Okay. I will need a motion to return to open session, please. Tina, a second. Kelly, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. If you did come here just for the budget presentation tonight, you are welcome to leave now, or you can stay. Michelle, do we have any agenda changes this evening?
I do not.
Do we have any agenda related public comment this evening? Okay. Michelle, do we have any communications?
I have two communications. The annual dinner, Jefferson Lewis School Board Association annual dinner is coming up on Thursday, May 22nd. I will need to know from the board probably this evening if you have some interest in going. It is at the Cultural Vineyards. There is dinner, a presentation.
Very good.
The guest speaker is Robert Schneider, the executive director of the New York State School Board Association for that evening. It won't be long and will be on graduation, Friday, June 27th. And I promise Mrs. Atkinson that I will put word out for the board members to let her or myself know if we plan to attend the evening of graduation this year. That is a 7 p.m. start, but the board members should plan to be there about 6:30. 27th? Yeah, June 27th.
Okay, well, at this point, move into student voice. I understand we have some of our Watertown High School talent show winners here tonight. The way.
So I gave you all of them from our talent show, which we hosted on April 11th. We had multiple acts, and these are students who largely do not necessarily participate in our band or our choral programs, whether it's because they're athletic, because they have things at home. Some of them are, but a lot of these students really just came out and gave it their all with what they already do in their own time and their hobby. So we have 3 groups who were our winners from the talent show. And I do want to point out that our judges, if you look at the back, are some of our staff members. And they actually follow a really strict rubric, and it gets broken down to decimal points to find out who the winners are. And the separation between first and second place this year was very, very close. And it was even closer for second and third place. So all of the students that you're going to see tonight really were outstanding on that stage. When our judges give the audience the score that those performers have, they have these giant numbers they hold up. All of our performers that you'll see tonight got all 10s across the board. So they're very, very talented and it's really quite remarkable that they have the courage to get up there. It's not me. I get made fun of a lot because I can't keep beat or tempo and it's not me. So I'm always really impressed with what these guys do. So with that in mind, any specific order that you'd like to be introduced to your talent show winners? All right, third place, can we have you guys stand? Do you guys want to say your names and then what you did? Put you on the
Justin Drow.
I'm Aiden Bryan.
I'm Jack Fitzgerald. And we did Michael Jackson. We did 3 songs.
Beyond the white glove.
Yeah.
Can you do a repeat performance?
I don't have the shoes on. I think we have certificates for you guys. Yes, please.
Aiden?
Yeah. Congratulations.
And our second place winners, I would just like to point out that one of the performers is one of our Cyclone Academy students. And the other performer had just been recovering from COVID and still managed to do an amazing duet and won second place. So if you guys want to stand and share your names.
I'm Abigail Elon.
I'm Ray Jensen.
What was the song you guys did? I don't remember.
We did a mashup of 2 songs. It was As the World Caves In by Matt Maltese and it was Cancer by Ivy.
And finally, our first place winner, he has been in our talent shows for each of the last 3 years. He's won first place now 2 times. This is his 2nd year. This student also, just as a part of our talent show, is they get to perform at our class day, or at least they get the first right of refusal. If they don't want to perform, they don't have to, but they get a chance to perform for all of the student body on class day, which is a celebration of our seniors on the very last day of school. So without further ado, our first place winner.
My name is Brady Van Brocklin. I perform Tom Sawyer by Rush on the drum set.
Nice.
Awesome.
And his mom has a video, so she could send you the link later.
Amber, if I'm not mistaken, didn't she win the fan favorite?
No. It was the fan favorite was Ray and Abby, actually.
Oh,
Yeah, right. That is, in addition to the rubric scores of the judges, we do something called the fan favorites. And so every time or every ticket that's purchased, you get a free fan favorite vote. And then you can also purchase additional fan favorite votes and you pick for the performer that you want to win that. And it's a nice sash that they get. And all the others got trophies that were printed on our 3D printers through our STAR program this year.
And when you came out with the drum solo, I was thinking, he's gonna play Wipeout. It's Wipeout for a drum solo. And you came out and did Tom Sawyer. You were phenomenal. Phenomenal. Great job. You all were great.
Hey, well, thank you to everyone from Student Voice for coming this evening. And if you don't want to stay for the rest of our meeting, you can do now.
Thank you.
Thank
Oh, you're first.
Can you guys moonwalk out of here? Oh, come on, you guys, stay. Come on, Justin. Just a little bit.
Okay, moving along on board and staff reports, superintendent of schools report, Dr. Larry Schmidt.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening. The first and foremost thing that I would like to do is thank our teachers and our staff for Teacher Appreciation Week and Day. I'd also like to thank the worlds of people that work around the district, both as parents, students, and community, that help us celebrate the amazing staff that we have in our district and the amazing work that they do. So congratulations to them. Another art thing, last night was the Jefferson County Art Show. What an amazing opportunity to see the talented work of all of our students throughout Jefferson County. Don't worry, if you missed the kickoff last evening, it will be on display at the Dulles State Office Building throughout the rest of the week until 6 p.m. So you have the opportunity to see it there and to see all of the masterpieces. The next thing I'd like to mention is the capital improvement project following the $110 million capital vote. We had our kickoff meeting, and what an exciting opportunity yesterday to talk about the excitement and the hype around our facilities so that we can improve them. We are going to be looking at meeting bi-weekly, so the board should expect updates on that as we continue those conversations. And we're also going to be looking at future projects. Remember, this time around, we're looking at windows, doors, safety, security, and heating units. So beyond that, we'll be looking at actually instructional spaces with the up and coming projects. Remember, as a part of our fund balance management, the $110 million capital project had a zero tax increase to our community. And the idea with this additional proposition for the 15 million is to do the same thing following the next project. Today, Brianne and I had the opportunity with our new director of facilities to meet with FEMA and the Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Services. We had a wonderful opportunity to discuss where we are. These meetings have been taking place every 2 weeks if you've been following us since August 9th when the storm happened and impacted the high school, Case, and North. We have successfully submitted our application. I've been saying this all along. We would like to reduce the tax burden to our community as far as the damages that the district sustained on that event. Again, they did push up our insurance claims rate, but we are hoping to receive some dividends for that. And so that 406 application, we have not received whether or not it will be awarded. We're looking at that to actually pay for all of the assessments that are going to be needed in order to work on our mitigation efforts throughout the district. And additionally, Bree signed this afternoon. I signed just before the board meeting today. We were able to successfully submit our Category B FEMA project. When you look at that, between all of the projects that we've submitted, that's over $10 million worth of work. So obviously that would reduce the burden of our taxpayers if we're awarded any or all of those grants. And so we're hoping that we are successful with that. And that concludes mine.
Thank you very much. Assistant Superintendent Construction Report, Linda.
Good evening, everyone. It's Teacher Appreciation Week, as you've heard, and I want to extend a thank you to all of the incredible teachers in our district. Each day, we see your dedication in action, embracing new curriculum, learning new teaching practices, always keeping kids at the center. You attend trainings, you collaborate with one another, and go above and beyond in countless ways to help our students learn, grow, and thrive. Your work matters deeply, and we are truly grateful for all that you do. I continue to serve on Potsdam's Teacher Education Advisory Council and its Educational Leadership Advisory Board. I had the opportunity to meet with both groups in April, and I'm pleased to report that both programs are thriving and experiencing growth. So what that means for us is our teacher pipeline and our teacher leader pipeline are strong. Finally, our grade 5 and grade 8 students took their New York State Science Assessment today, and grades 3 through 8 will take math next week. Thank you.
Assistant Superintendent for Personnel and Student Services Report, Tina Lane.
Good evening. So during the past month, we've done over 11 rounds of interviews. So we're interviewing for current position, but paramountly for next year, we've done just wonderful work in recruiting new staff to our district. People want to come to Watertown, and we're very, very happy to have them here. And just to echo what Dr. Schmiegel and Lynn had said about teachers and their unwavering commitment, I really appreciate on behalf of the HR department, their participation in administrative interviews, staff interviews, teacher interviews. They really play a valuable role in making decisions in the district, and their questions are just amazing and the discussion's amazing. So I'd like to thank teachers for their part in that. And finally, I would like to recognize and celebrate our incredible school nurses. In honor of National Nurses Day today, our nurses play a vital role in supporting the health and well-being of both students and staff across the Watertown City School District. Their care, their dedication, and professionalism help to ensure that students are healthy, safe, and ready to learn each day. We thank them for their invaluable contributions and extend our sincere appreciation for all that they do to support student success. So happy Nurses Day to our nurses all across the district. We appreciate them.
Thank you so much. Finally, Assistant Superintendent for Operations Finance, here you go.
Hello, I missed reporting to you guys. Now that we're transitioning out of budget season, hopefully, we're transitioning into audit season. We are in the midst of our internal audit for the year by Questar BOCES. The focus this year is on grants, specifically Title I and DADEA 23. The auditor is working closely with Lynn and Christina. So he'll finish up hopefully at the end of next week. In addition, if you remember earlier in the year when we were looking at some of the old comments that the internal auditor had written up over the past few years, over spring break, I was looking at some of those comments and trying to clean up a bunch of them up. So some of them are simply procedural in nature. Some will have to be addressed at the reordinating in July. But I'd like to have most of that cleaned up if possible. That's one of my goals. And then we have a different rep from Questar BOCES coming in next week for the next 2 weeks to work on updating our fixed assets. That was one of the questions one of the comments from the internal auditor in the past few years. And it's also a request from the insurance company. So they're going to come on site and do a thorough inventory of our fixed assets. And yeah, it should take about 2 weeks to do that project. And Dr. S did allude to this earlier, but Haler Fire and Kuhn did reach out to Liberty Mutual for an insurance quote. Liberty Mutual did turn us down due to the amount of our losses for the past 2 years. We did reach out to a local insurance broker as a recommendation, and that broker also came back and said only Utica National and NYSER really specialize in school insurance. So we are sitting still at the 40% increase with Utica National at this point in time. And finally, in addition to Teachers Appreciation Week and Nurses Day, you guys are fabulous. I'm not dissing anything you do, but over spring break, we had to celebrate Administrative Professionals Day. Lunch was provided by the admin team, and I'll tell you what, and I'm sure I can speak for all of us, we couldn't do our work without them. They are an amazing crew, and I have told them over and over and over, you're the ones that make us look good. So thank you, thank everybody for everything that you do. And that's all I have. You are welcome.
Items for consent agenda.
Resolve that consent agenda items A through E are hereby approved.
Motion, please. John, second.
Yeah.
Tina, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
I have questions.
Oh.
Forgot to ask, yeah. I have questions on the financial report brief. So a couple of just informational for me. I repeatedly saw Amazon Capital Services on different, what is that?
That's supplies are purchased through the Amazon website.
Okay, that's, I pretty much thought that. And thus I added up the total amount that is paid to the CBOs, and I came up with 276,900. Is it safe to assume that that's a monthly payment, or is that like, because the report?
I want to say ish, Millie.
Ish,
I
okay.
can't comment 100% on that because some of them, their payment sheets do lag.
Okay. Okay, yeah, because this report says 3/1 to 3/31, so.
Yeah.
Because when you do them, if you do that for 12 months, it comes out to be like 3.1 million, which is, I think, is what we fund them with.
Yeah, we applied for the grant at 3.2 million and were awarded 3.04.
Okay, all right, and then I also have one question on the appropriation status summary report. So on account 9950, which is a transfer to capital. So we had a budget of $100,000 and there was an adjustment of $10 million.
Yes.
And then we expensed 10 million and change. I'm assuming that's interest that was earned in this period. So where,
That $10 million is the voter approved capital project. The voters approved us to use the $10 million capital reserve to fund the $110 million project. And once the voters approve that, we have to transfer that money into the capital fund, and that is the process that it's done.
So is this the money that was already in a capital reserve account?
Yes,
Okay, so this is not a new capital reserve.
correct.
Okay, that was a question.
People all in favor. Okay, items for board action.
Whereas the Watertown City School District recognizes the dedication, hard work, and tireless commitment of its school staff members, including teachers, administrators, support staff, and all personnel who contribute to the success and well-being of students. Whereas the role of school staff is essential to fostering a positive learning environment, promoting academic achievement, and supporting the school and the social and emotional development of all students in the district. Whereas the National Observance of School Staff Appreciation Week provides an opportunities to celebrate and acknowledge the contributions of school staff and express gratitude for their efforts throughout the school year. Whereas the Watertown City School District acknowledges the extraordinary commitment demonstrated by the staff members, ensuring the safety, growth, and success of students, especially in the face of challenges such as evolving educational standards, social changes, and the ongoing attention to new technologies. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Watertown City School District Board of Education that the week of May 5th through the 9th is proclaimed by the National Observance of School Staff Appreciation Week, be officially recognized and celebrated in the Watertown City School District as School Staff Appreciation Week. Number 2, the board expresses its deep gratitude to all school staff members for their dedication, professionalism, and unwavering commitment to the academic success and well-being of every student in the district. Number 3, the Watertown City School District community is encouraged to take this opportunity to recognize and show appreciation for the valuable contributions of all school staff members. And number 4, a copy of this resolution shall be shared with all school staff and made publicly available to highlight the district's appreciation for their service and dedication, and is hereby.
Can I have a motion, please? Kelly, second. John, discussion. Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I have Barry. Perfect. I'm the only one that name here.
Whereas Barry submitted a proposal to the Watertown City School District for claims auditor services. And whereas the school district desires to select the auditor as its provider of claims auditor services, and now therefore, in consideration of the mutual promises contained herein and other good and valuable consideration, the sufficiency of which is hereby acknowledged by both parties, the school district and the auditor agree, and is hereby approved.
Motion, please. Tina, a second. Or any discussion? Welcome to the team. Thank you. All those in favor? Aye.
Speakers tonight, and I promise no more than 90 seconds maybe, but I'm one of the few people who have loved their profession all the way through it. I just retired last June, is 19 years of business administrator at South Louis District. Dr. Spiegel knows my superintendent, Doug Primo, and that retirement date got moved back 3 different times at his insistence. We were in the middle of a project, and while he was very happy with it, Mrs. Yeti wasn't, because I had been promising and promising and promising, but she understood my passion for this business. And one of the things that she said, is there going to be any interim work for you to do throughout this? I said, you know, there's not a big talent pool for this job. So phone rang. The person who took my place was a director of curriculum, Deb Damagala at South Louis. And she would only take the job because Deb is, if you ask her to do something that requires 2 layers of the onion, she does about 6. She's that thorough with everything. The reason she approached Doug that she would take the job is if I could stay on as point 2 as a mentor, because she was afraid of failing. You imagine that failing anything, you know? So that got me going in this, and I said, well, that's about a half a day a month. Carthage put it on RFP for a claims auditor, so I've been doing that since last July. So my mentorship with Deb runs out the end of this June. And I reached out to the two other large school districts. The one was all set, and Bree and Dr. Schmiel got back to me promptly and could you stop in and talk to us about what you could do. So this puts me back in the position where I'm still doing what I love for a full day a week between the two schools. And I'm a happy guy, and when I'm a happy guy, my wife hasn't got to, you know, be under her feet too often. So I really appreciate it. And just to go a little bit farther, I started out in the education business. I was a corporate controller for a small multi-corporate group. And I got a call one night that a member was moving to Las Vegas from the Little Falls City School Board, and I was asked to fill their term. And I ran another one. Then my first job in school business management was a shared business official between the Dallasville District in Herkimer County and the Oppenheim District in Fulton County. So the third week of the month, I had school board meetings 3 nights a week, and I was president of the Valley United Way. So that night of the week, if I got home before midnight, I think my wife thought something was wrong with my friends circle, you know. So, but anyways, thank you very much, and I appreciate it, and I look forward to working side. Bree's been a colleague of mine for 12 years now or so, you know. So it's been a good ride, and this allows me to continue doing what I enjoy. So thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. And from Mr. Cola, if you're here. Oh, there she is. Can you stand front and center, please?
I'm that much taller.
Resolved that upon the recommendation of Dr. Larry H. Negro, Superintendent of Schools, the appointment of Amber Mr. State Pharmacist hereby approved.
Motion, please.
Lori.
Lori, second.
Tina.
Discussion?
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Yay.
Happy that you're here. I think we all said that when you're down in high school. It's a relief that you're gonna be staying with us.
I'm excited. So thank you.
You.
Oh. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Be resolved that upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Larry Schmiegel, the Board of Education hereby approves the following: resignations, retirements, leaves of absence, appointments, probationary instructional, teacher on special assignments, school psychologist on special assignment, STEM program, lead teacher, provisional, permanent part-time, substitutes instructional, substitutes non-instructional.
Motion, please. John. John, second for Kelly. Any discussion?
I just have a question for Tina. Did we really have 20 resignations?
Well, I'll do the breakdown.
Yeah,
We did,
thought
but
that was weird.
yeah, so 5 are substitute employees who have maybe taken permanent positions in other districts, or individuals who didn't meet job requirements. One resignation is from a coach, and another who was hired but had to resign immediately due to a change in personal circumstances. That person was from out of state. And one teacher is actually resigning because she's transitioning to be an administrator of the district.
Yeah,
So we have 12 out of the 20 who have some extraordinary circumstances there. Yes.
Yeah,
List of
I thought
yeah.
that was really weird to see that. Okay.
I have a motion, please. Did we do John? Yeah, we did it. Yeah, we did that. Yeah. Okay, so all those in favor? I was gonna say, I know I did it. I know I did it. Oh, you're not gonna. Any opposed? Motion carries.
We would like to ask Francis Seymour to stand up. The board and us, we've been talking over the last couple of years of the idea of Watertown City School District adding ourselves to the map of marching, bringing another thing to our district that will allow our kids to feel like a sense of belonging. So you're joining us from General Brown, and we are overly excited about all of the great things that you're going to do for our students and staff. And I have to say, rarely do my socks get kicked off in an interview, but when we did a second round of interviews with Francis, and she came in with a budget She came in, she had spent her lunch and her planning time taking our alma mater and breaking it down to notes for a marching band. But you're overly impressive. You have experience initiating programs like this. 20, how many years?
22.
22 years teaching experience. We are extremely excited to have your talent here in the Watertown City School District. So thank you for joining us and trusting in our family.
Thank you so much.
So that the following revised Board of Education policies and regulation are hereby approved. 7502, parental access to instructional materials, third-party surveys and marketing surveys. 7501.1, privacy PPRA opt-out letter. 7502, school safety and educational climate reporting.
Okay, motion please. Tina, a second. Lori, any discussion?
Yes. Policy 7501, I guess this question is for Lori. In Roman numeral 3, section C, number 3, under instructional materials, it says, the district will respond to a parent's request for inspection within a reasonable period of time after the district's receipt of the request. My comment on that would be that reasonable is subjective, and I think that it would be more appropriate to have a specified time in there.
What Roman?
I don't have it with me. Oh, okay. 7501, Roman numeral 3.
Top of page 3.
Page 3. Yeah. So it's like number 3. The district will respond to a parent's request for inspection within a reasonable period of time after the district receives the request. I'm just suggesting that would be a more specified time as opposed to it being an arbitrary reasonable. Reasonable is different for many people.
And that when this was brought up to the board meeting the last time, that was not one of the recommendations. The recommendations we made were ones that the state recommended that we update our policy. So that would be a new consideration that was not considered.
Top of page 3.
Yeah.
Roman numeral 3 starts on the bottom of page 2. It goes A, B, C, and then 2 and 3 on the top of page 3.
Yes, it's number 2, number 3.
So that would be a new consideration for the policy committee to consider, but it wasn't one that was.
Yeah,
brought up
I mean,
to the
I
board.
figured as much, and I know she brought it up last time and we really didn't. I just read it for the first time and I just think reasonable is subjective. I think it would be better if we put a specified amount of time in there.
Like to move forward with approving what we have since that wasn't one of them and then bringing it back to the policy meeting on the 21st to discuss.
I don't think it would be an issue to put time frame on that. I think you want flexibility though. What if the teacher's out sick?
Yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, let's say reasonable within, I mean, what's,
Within 3 business.
or within,
I don't know if that's.
within 10 maximum. I was thinking 10. 3.
I was thinking
You know what,
10
I
too.
don't have it in front of me, so I don't even remember.
Yeah,
what
I was thinking
about.
10, like 10 business days would probably be reasonable.
Want to approve the recommendations that were presented to the board last week and then consider the change for another possible provision, or do you want to
I
take?
think that's fine to do.
Yeah.
We'll just bring it back after the next meeting.
So you want to approve it now and then bring it back
And
to
then we'll
us?
take it back to policy.
That's fine.
We have one on the 23rd.
Yeah.
Okay, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
So that the disposal, recycle, or donation of damaged, outdated, and unused books and items from the library at Case Middle School is hereby approved.
Motion please. Lori, second. John, any discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that the disposal, recycle, or donation of damaged, outdated, and unused textbook, H.T. Wiley, is hereby approved.
Motion please. Kelly, second.
Tina.
Tina, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
So that the disposal, recycle, or donation of damaged, outdated, and unused instructional materials from the district office storage room is hereby approved.
Motion please. John, a second. Tina, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that the student trips as presented to the board are hereby approved.
Motion please. Tina, second. Kelly, discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that a donation from the Safe Schools Endeavor of the Northern New York Community Foundations for $1,500 designated as support to launch the Buddy project for pre-K and kindergarten students. This donation is gratefully accepted and approved and will be acknowledged in writing.
Motion please. John, a second. Lori. Discussion.
Just want to say what a great program the Safe School Endeavor is. They provide money to all of our districts for health and safety initiatives, and I think that this is a great initiative on behalf of our district. So it's a great use of that money, and I'm glad they're able to fund it.
All those in favor? Aye. Any abstentions? Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolved that a donation from the Watertown Community Police Benevolent Association for $500 is designated as support to purchase children's bikes for the end of year raffle for the Sherman Elementary School PBIS committee. This donation is gratefully accepted and approved and will be acknowledged in writing.
Motion please. Go on. Kelly, second. John, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
The resolution.
Anyone still here looking to address the board on non-agenda related public comment this evening? Okay. Then some upcoming dates to share with you. On Wednesday, May 7th, we have a Knickerbocker grade 2 concert at 6 p.m. and Ohio grade 4 musical at 6 p.m. Friday, May 9th is case activity night from 7 to 9 p.m. Saturday, May 10th is the high school prom from 7 to 10. Wednesday, May 14th is North Elementary grades 1 and 2 concert at 6 p.m. Thursday, the 15th is Case Spring Concert number 1, Watertown High School, beginning at 7 p.m. On Monday, May 19th, we have Wiley Spring Concert number 1, 6:30. On Tuesday, May 20th, we have Wiley Spring Concert number 2 at 6:30. And that day also, we have our school budget vote and school board of education elections, 12 to 9 p.m. And then Wednesday, May 21st at 5 p.m., we have a policy committee meeting. And following that is our regularly scheduled Board of Education meeting. Okay, start with Millie tonight.
Okay, so, you know, I find it very interesting, Evan, that as soon as there's any challenge or questions or surprises that particularly I'm gonna and myself, that comes to my mind, that it's immediately labeled as negativity. I've served, you can roll your eyes, that's okay. I've served on this board for 2 years, and I have supported almost everything here. I have asked, I have inquired, and because you are holding people accountable, and because I take my job seriously, that I am the voice for the community members and I'm a voice for the taxpayers, it is my fiscal responsibility to ask questions. That doesn't mean I don't support it. That doesn't mean that I don't agree with it. It is my job. That's the way I see my job. So I beg to differ with you, but I don't see myself as a negative person. I'm just inquisitive and I ask many, many questions. Just like Mrs. Trainer said, it is great to see all these additions in our school budget and instruction. It's all applauded. However, what you don't want to say and what is not acknowledged is that our budget is going from an approved budget of $96 million last year to 103. And when we actually look what we spent with the encumbered amount, we're only going to be at 59 million. So there's an excess there. And there's been an excess in the previous years. And then you can look at, our reports where if you add up all the total employee benefits, budgeted, we had 24 million. We only spent 11 million. There's 12 million left, but yet we're budgeting another 23 million. We look at our debt service, we budgeted 4.9 million. We have 4.1 million left. All we spent was 934,000, but yet we're still budgeting that high. Not a mathematician, I'm not a finance person. I'm not saying that what administration is doing is wrong, but it is my job to ask. And that doesn't mean I'm being negative. I may sound confrontational and maybe my delivery may not be chocolate coated, but I'm asking questions that I feel like our community needs to know. My questions are help. The reason I'm here is because that's what the community put me here for. If some people want to label my questioning or me being confrontational, that's fine. I have broad shoulders, but that is negative. When someone is questioning something that's valid, these numbers are real. They're not made up. I'm not making up numbers. I'm asking simple questions and it's viewed as negative. So I'll just say that and then to offend someone from the ARC who has the courage to come up to talk to everyone at this board and express some concerns at the first available opportunity, I think is terrible. That we do this to our community members and that we do this to our community partners. And I know you're invested in this school district, but I am an invested community person. And I think I've proven that at least the people that talk to me make me feel that way. So I think we need to be a little bit more cognizant and sensitive that when you have people that have the courage to speak to us, that they're not offended in that way. I thought that was a little short-sighted. The fund balance is going up from 24 to 28%. We're only supposed to be at 10%, and maybe we can go up to 14%, and that's fine. We're at double our fund balance. Even though we didn't spend all of the taxpayer allotted money, we're still increasing our budget by $7 million. Those are the questions that I asked. Those are the questions that I still haven't gotten any answers to. There are a bunch of line items here. Randy, you said we had a lot of opportunity to talk. I asked, last year we made a decision as a group that we were going to be much more intense about revealing the budget. I asked multiple times for numbers, but really nothing really comes together till the end. And I'm not saying we did that intentionally. Like, I get it. It takes a long time to get to where we're here. But to say that we've had plenty of opportunity to ask, I disagree with that comment as well. Especially if there's never a time limit on when to ask. And to me, it's very upsetting that we have community partners coming in here and talking to the board and they don't feel heard. They don't feel like we're paying attention or that we're being insensitive to what their needs are and how this whole decision. Again, I'm not saying we shouldn't do a 44, but at the very minimum, we should have involved the people that are in the trenches and that are already experienced in rendering this service. And today it came to light that they weren't.
And the hard thing, Millie, with that is that we have had meetings out of the eye of the public.
Yeah.
That I can't, there's things that you're saying right now, things that they said over there that I would like to comment on, but out of respect of the process, I haven't done that. But I will say what you're referring to as far as the numbers are not the total encumbered numbers. So if you would like, we can share that with you because the year's not over. So there's a lot of expenses that are not encumbered yet.
And I understand and I appreciate the feedback, but I did ask at the last budget meeting, including the encumbered monies, where are we going to be on 6/30/24? And I believe the answer was 59 million. We have an approved budget of 96 million. So I'll ask you this question. Is there a cap? Does the state impose a surplus cap on a school district?
The state law requires is the 4%, but many districts are over it.
Well, we know this and I know that, So do we have to be concerned with any potential repercussions from the state? Because our surplus, okay.
Now with the Blue Ribbon Commission, the Rockefeller Institute, there's a consideration to raise that amount. But ours is, when you look at the amount that we're using to cover next year's budget of almost $12 million, if you look at that and over just a 3-year period of time, that reserve is going to be well reduced than what it is now. But the percentage that you have as far as encumbered is a little bit different than what.
Yeah, I looked at the report today. Spent to date was $68.4 million. That includes the $10 million capital transfer. Encumbered was $14 million. But these numbers do not include, there's a bunch of employee benefits that aren't wrapped up until the end of the year, and that's about $4 million. Debt service, it's not encumbered here. That's something I want to change for next year, but it's $4 million of debt service that's going to be paid by the end of the year. So that brings the total to $90 million. Also, there's going to be transfers to reserves at the end of the year. And there's going to be some further adjustments by the auditors once they come in and do the audit. That's going to affect your June 30th numbers. But as I had reiterated before, there's about a $12 million surplus, and that is what's being used to balance next year's budget.
So, and I don't want to misquote you. So what you're saying is that we are actually going to spend close to the $96 million of the taxpayers. Okay. Again, I'm not a finance person, but I deciphered all of this, and that is not, that's not something I understood, and that's fine. And this is why I'll go back. This is not negative commentary. This is questioning the money and trying to understand. That's a lot of money. The city budget is $54 million. We're almost the double of that. So obviously it's alarming, and the more we speak, the more we talk about it, the more chances that people are educated. And then when they go out on May 20th, they are making an informed decision, an educated decision as to whether they want to support this budget or not. So the reason for me asking all these questions is to really educate the public. It's not to be controversial, but it is my right. And I think that I should be not put down because I'm asking questions. It's not negative. It's just a large budget. Indian River has a budget of 101 million. Arthur's has a budget of 77 million. I mean, there's variances here, but it's also very difficult when I'm the only one who's ever commenting. So it looks like I'm the bad guy. It looks like I'm the negative person because there's never any other commentary. And I like to express my thoughts. I'm here for a reason. I'm not here for me. I'm here for the community. And I get phone calls and people talk to me because they know I'm going to bring the issues to the forefront. So that is my comment on that. I appreciate that you're answering all these questions, and I don't agree that we had opportunities. This book right here, great. I would have loved to have it before. But again, I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying, I'm sure it took a long time to get to this point, but there's a lot of questions that are still out there, and it's a big budget.
It's definitely a big budget, and we started the processing of it. We actually started earlier this year on the budget than we've ever started. I can't speak to prior administrations, but we keep moving it backwards.
Yeah.
And to your point, as far as the community's understanding of the budget, that's why we moved to 8 budget presentations. We've completed 6. They've asked amazing questions. Each presentation we do makes the next one even better. We have 2 left this week. What's the vote?
So how are we interviewing for the pre-K program when don't we have to apply to the state and get approved for it?
So any of the ones the state's been approved, they're asking the district to apply, but there is an application process. But any position, until the voters say on the 20th that we're approving this budget, any position says anticipate. So it's not indefinite until the voters speak, and then it becomes the rule, and it becomes the budget, and then it anticipated.
So because we're putting 2 4410s within the Watertown City School District, we do have to make those open seats available to regional children, correct?
So that we're still working on the application process, but we are a school district, so the rules are a little bit different for the CEOs than they are for a school district.
Okay, because one of my other concerns that I didn't voice earlier is we're imposing a cost on Watertown City School District residents, but if we have to open up these programs to our regional and abutting districts, then there's a little bit of concern that the Watertown district has to pay and we have to open up these seats to
Yeah, I'm not
regional
sure that that's
students.
accurate, but I can get an answer.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's why I wanted, so if you don't know the answer to that.
It'd be a similar issue then with the facilities. And we allow kids from other districts to use our facilities is a different cost, but I don't believe that's accurate, but I'll find out.
Okay, let me just, Jason, let me just give me 1 second. I just want to make sure that I didn't forget anything. I think we are good. Thank you.
Yeah. Everybody said it already, but I'd be remiss as an educator if I didn't say, cool staff week. It's been an amazing week at Copenhagen, feeling a lot of love and appreciation, and I hope that my brothers and sisters here in Watertown are too. And then you stole my thunder. I knew it was Nurses Day, and I didn't think anybody else was gonna know it. So
I have that on my
I do
calendar.
want to thank our nurses too. And then I do want to send out a congratulations to our boys lacrosse team, who is currently state ranked and having a great season. I've had the opportunity to see them play a couple of times. Spring sports are coming to a quick end here. We're coming down to the last few weeks, but I expect a long run in the postseason for those young men. They are playing phenomenally well and they are fun to watch. Thank you, Gina.
I did get to watch a game too, but I had to sit in my car because it was cool.
It's just part of the experience.
I know it. If I was a mother or a grandmother, I'd stand there, but I sat in the car, sorry. But I'd love to watch them play. So also for all the teachers. Huh?
Did I miss the game tonight?
Oh, dear. I saw them outside. All the teachers and staff, we couldn't do it without them. You guys are phenomenal. They go above and beyond without even being asked. It's not like you have to ask somebody to help out. They just jump in. Matt, I don't know how you do all the stuff you do. I don't. I've told you that before. I don't know how you do it, but you do it and you do it well. And Tina, thank you for all those interviews. I did too. I opened that thing and saw the resignations and thought, oh, Tina's been busy. So thank you. Thank you to everybody and Dr. Schmid, while you work on the budget and all the ideas everybody's come up with. I think it's going to be great. Thank you for everything. And I was supposed to get back to you and obviously that went right over my head, but I'm glad the kids were here and they did great. They did great. That was a fun time. So thank you. Thank you all, everybody.
Lori.
Thank you for all the teachers and the nurses and congratulations to marching band. I'm really excited about this. I think the kids will be really excited. It'd be nice to see parades with us having the school representation.
Or they had 2 students that participated in the interview process, practicing for their NISMA solos. And when they heard that the district would be possibly adding a marching band, they're like, we want to play, we want to get kids. So the excitement is already there. And I could just envision our district participating in a Veterans Day, Memorial Day parade to bring pride to our entire community.
Real question, are they gonna be at football games?
A band. Come play cowbell if you want.
I actually will take you up on
Also, the promise this weekend, safe children, good choices.
Kelly. I as well would be remiss if I didn't mention Staff Appreciation Week since I live with one of them. But seriously, my family, tons of friends, dedication and what it takes. Not going with this. I just want to thank everyone who spoke as well. Obviously the community involvement makes our job easier. And the next large opportunity is the 20th. That's all I have. Randy?
Couple things. I want to again thank Bree, I'm the superintendent. My over a decade of years on school boards. This is probably one of the most thorough processes of the budget I've ever seen. We've had meetings since February on this budget in committee. A lot of discussions are had in committee, so that's not always broadcast here, but we did have multiple discussions in committee, and this whole board voted for this. And I heard the accusation that one member felt tricked, and is there anybody else on this board that feels tricked? I think it's important for the public to know because we're asking them to support this in 2 weeks. You all feel tricked? Teacher appreciation. I want to make sure, Marilyn, thank you for being here and for speaking. And your many years of service to this district, but also we have a very distinguished member in the audience here, Dr. Tom. I just want to end on my K-12 experience at Watertown and many wonderful teachers. And I have 3 that I want to mention because they changed the course of my life. Dad Phillips, Cindy Rowe, and Dick Navis. Because of them, I'm the person I am. And that to me should say everything you need to know about teacher appreciation. Thanks.
I always have the pleasure of going last, so everybody said. It's fitting that nurses and teachers are celebrated in the same week, 2 of the hardest working professions in our society. Thankful for all of you. Thankful to sit up here and represent. Lori touched on the prom, and I want to stress safety with that and good choices and the importance of getting a ride if that's what's needed. It's nice to have some of the Board of Education candidates here tonight. Thank you for joining us. Amber, I always kind of applaud you, but I'm going to do it again. It's been nice to watch the transformation, and I like investing in our own, and I think that we're all relieved that you're here, and I just want to stress that again. Marching band and especially the pep band, I will not forget that you said that. I have a very good memory. And I could probably even come up with a makeshift uniform if you need. I've got some ideas, but it's nice to have you here from General Brown. General Brown's a great school district. A lot of my family went there. So thank you for coming over. And I guess that's all I have to. So at this time, I'll take a motion to adjourn, please. John and Lori, all those in favor? Aye. Okay, see you next time.